There's tons of conversations going on inside of the online coaching space right now. And it goes something like this. AI is going to take over your coaching business. It's going to write your content, run your ads, send your DMs, and build all of your funnels, do everything for you to where either one, you no longer have a business, or two, you have to do nothing. And honestly, some of that stuff there is truth behind. And so I believe that it's going to be able to do all of those things probably better and faster than a lot of coaches that are able to do it right now, and even business owners in the space. But here's the piece that no one's really explaining or actually talking about. AI cannot do the one thing that makes people actually want to buy from you. And the coaches that understand this on a fundamental level, they are about to have way more leverage than they've ever had before inside of the space. The ones that don't understand this, they will or already are kind of slowly replacing themselves, and they don't even know it yet. And so if this is your first time here, my name is Dustin Lash. I've worked with well over 2,500, 3,000 business owners, online coaches to help build, brand, and scale their online business. And I've done well over probably 20,000 sales calls to date personally. And in all of those things, I have never seen someone buy coaching or work with a business because their content was good. They ended up buying from that person because they trusted the person behind it. That is it. That is the entire game. Trust is not something you can just simply generate with more output. It's something that you can create with volume and consistency of breaking limiting beliefs and being deeper than just surface level. But to me, like, trust is ultimately built through like the identity of someone watching enough of your things over a long enough period of time to decide, oh, this person is who they say they are. And they understand, they feel like they're in your life, right? AI cannot produce content like that. It cannot produce the character behind all that stuff. And right now, the coaching market is kind of split between two groups, is what I've noticed. There are coaches who are becoming more of a commodity, right? Because they are replaceable, and they end up just kind of competing and racing to the bottom for price and output. And then there's coaches who actually build a personal brand, who share their unique perspective, their actual story, their background, how they get people results. They break limiting beliefs. They share their core values, like all of those things that are so distinctive to them. There is no algorithm that can replicate that. One of those groups is going to struggle for the next few years. And then the other one is going to look back at the moment in time where AI kind of started coming into the scene, and they're going to be like, this is the best thing that ever happened to my business. So I really want to kind of uncover and break down like what side you want to be on, and more importantly, like what it's going to actually take for you to get to that side. So, AI will kill your coaching business, but here's the one thing that I feel like is really going to stop it. Like, everybody, like I said, keeps talking about AI and all these moving parts and things like that. And they act like this is going to change everything. Maybe it does, but it's not going to be in the way people think that it's going to, because I do not treat AI like a threat. I think AI is ultimately going to be a spotlight. And this is just what it feels like to me. I think that it's going to shine a bright spotlight on people that have actually built a place from authenticity. And then the people who have built something by flexing on social media and all these things. And the internet just has not fully caught up to that yet. And so, like, this is what I think is happening, because everyone has access to the same tools. Like, you can write content faster, you can script content, you can get ideas, like you can build all the frameworks. Like, everybody can do pretty much the same thing now because the access and the information is there. Everybody can make their page sound a little smarter than they actually are. But like, here's the piece that makes things real. Because now that everybody can have decent content, decent has become obsolete, in my opinion. And that is the part that no one really understands, because the average just got automated. And so the middle of the market has been absolutely flooded. And if someone built their business in the middle, then you should feel uneasy about it. And it's not because AI is just simply going to replace you, because it's going to actually expose you. That is the difference behind it all. I think that the market needs way less recycled advice. So I feel like this is good, right? There needs to be less fake authority and less fake flexing and gurus and all of this stuff. less people building a business off of borrowed conviction. And that's what a lot of pages look like right now. They're not necessarily brands, they're just content farms with a face on them. And that is kind of the underlying thing that I've seen being the shift lately. And when you look at like a personal brand or a brand in general, like it feels to me like a brand carries way more weight because it will say way more when you land on that person's page before they ever even say anything about the offer. Like the day and age that we've lived in, everyone has gone through and worked with mentors or coaches, or they've been through courses. And so all of the stuff that we see on social media has just become recycled advice from YouTube, people that have never really lived or done the thing. They're just repeating what they've heard. So there is no conviction behind it. They've learned how to post before they've actually ever stood for something. That's the part that aggravates me the most. And every few years, the internet does this, right? Like I've watched this happen way too many times to get overly impressed by just the tool itself. That's why I'm not like a AI hype man, right? It's still in infancy stage. Every few years, this pattern kind of shows up, and this is how people start reacting to it. Like, oh, this is the edge. Like this is the thing that's going to separate everybody. And it does separate people to a degree, but it's not because like the tool itself is magic. It's just because the pressure starts to reveal itself because there becomes a separation. So back in like 2018, right? Like when, I got into the coaching space in 2015, 2016, I was running an online fitness coaching business in 2018. It was like ClickFunnels came out. That was the rave. Everybody was losing their mind over ClickFunnels, headlines, building optimization, page builders, all of this stuff. And of course, yeah, I jumped into it, started learning the tool. And I felt very similar. It's like, oh, this is a game changer. And so I pushed through, got a 2 Comma Club award, after doing like 7 figures through a funnel with my online fitness business. And yeah, like I was super pumped about it because like the accolades were there, right? It wasn't just a business, but it was like an accolade to me saying, oh, I accomplished this specific goal. And, I went to ClickFunnels Live. I got my 2 Comma Club award, met Russell, and I met a lot of cool people there. But what I really learned is that a lot of people were just running a business that didn't really have a soul behind it. Like they were all really good at marketing, but they were selling a terrible product or they had terrible delivery on the back end and no real understanding of actual business or personal brand. And this is the first time I experienced my first kind of major trial and tribulation, and why I'm so big on building things from a personal brand now. And I'll kind of explain a little bit of the backstory about what happened so you can kind of have some deeper context. Because, I had built my online fitness business and we were doing multiple 7 figures a year. I got to a place where I was just bored of fitness. I feel like, I could only talk about macros and weight loss and fitness, like all of the same stuff. Like it was very just kind of very surface level to me. And it had become very boring and repetitive. And I was burned out. I had kids. Like I lived and breathed the business because I just continued to push scale. And there came a point in time where I was like, man, like I'm tired of this. My COO approached me at the time and was like, hey, what do you think about me buying in as a partner? And I said, what do you think about just buying me out and taking the business? And he was cool with that. And so we sat down, we came up, we had meetings with accountants and things like that and attorneys. And then I ended up exiting the business completely. I just sold him the company. And when I did that, I felt like a breath of fresh air. The problem was I knew nothing about personal brand. Everything that I ever built was associated with the brand itself. And no one knew me after that. And so I took a year off, wanted to get back into some business, but it was like I was starting over from scratch because I never built a personal brand. Everything that I built was based under the brand's identity. So fast forward to this, and it's like after ClickFunnels, got into business consulting, and then everything kind of shifted. Then everything was go high level, automations, like an all-in-one CRM and tool. So I was like, cool. Of course, jumped on that as well. And then, did crazy money running through a consulting company with that. I white labeled the system, was giving access directly to my clients because it was super useful at the right stage of their business. And I didn't like the fact that people were trying to push this thing like it was going to change their world just by this simple tool, right? And like I went through and I watched agencies like shut down overnight, and they were just churning and burning people for like a $497 offer or a $297 a month offer, grabbing people on a subscription basis, when in reality, they weren't at that level yet. They didn't need the tool. There was no skill set underneath it all. And so when I gave access to my clients, is like, here is a done for you system. It has all of my funnels that I've ever made money with through ClickFunnels, through Go High Level. Like, you can have access to all of this stuff. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription for it because I don't think you need it yet. But here it is. And most people want to go and buy the thing just because marketing is telling them they need it. But in reality, like a tool will not fix a weak business foundation, right? It's not going to fix the vague messaging. It's not going to fix the person who still sounds like everybody else. It's just not going to fix that stuff, right? And so now here we are with AI. If you've noticed this pattern, 2018, then like 2022, 2023, and it goes on and on. Every 3 or 4 years, there's this new tool, this new shift in the market. And this is what I've seen absolutely kill business owners. Like, I've seen so many coaches and online business owners become successful and then all of a sudden shut down overnight. Alignment, whatever it may be, they'll make 4 or 5 million. Then all of a sudden they disappear. They change their offer. They change everything up. And like, I understand, like I've been through that too. Some of it to a degree, maybe they're just absolutely burned out. Like, I know when I had a massive team, like I hated it. I had hated the business that I had created just due to the simple fact that profit margins continue to dip. I was running, we went from running a 50, 60% profit margin to a 20%, but that's a completely different story. And so it's kind of same movie, different costume, right? The people that are going to get hurt are not the ones that build something from a place of authenticity and build a personal brand behind it. That is the foundation that will always stand regardless of the tool that comes out or whatever it may be. And the ones who have built their whole business on surface level, they're the ones that are going to get shut down. Okay. Because they're borrowing the right words from people, whether it's through YouTube or Instagram or following their favorite influencer or creating virality, things like that, trying to look like the authority instead of actually becoming that person. That game is going to now be punished. And when it comes to AI, like, AI did not make generic people. Okay. It's only revealing how generic they already were. And like, that is the truth kind of underneath this whole thing, because for a while being decent was enough. It was simple to go through and have decent captions, decent talking head reels, share decent value posts, things like that. But now everybody can type in a prompt and get that stuff. Everybody can go and do it. And that time is pretty much gone. And so now decent is pretty much everywhere all over social media. Now it's just an instant prompt, right? It's very cheap and there's no real substance or value behind it. There's no actual human perspective or human opinion. That is why there's so much content feed or so much content that just kind of feels empty. And it's not horrible, just kind of empty, right? Like, there's no actual substance. Every time I open my phone and I just scroll on Instagram for a minute, it's just like, it's all kind of the same stuff, like the same structure, the same framework. It's just same, but there's no fingerprint or actual substance or perspective behind it. It is just the average of everything else on the internet that is being vomited up by a prompt by AI. I hate it. And I know if I feel that way, I'm sure that my ideal clients feel that way. Your ideal clients feel that way because the buyer's sophistication has changed and they catch on to it. And so that's what people feel. Like, even if they can't go and explain it, like, they feel it when a message does not come from a place of life. Like, they know when it's a prompt. Even my wife doesn't really use AI of any kind. She doesn't use social media marketing or anything like that. But she can tell when it's ChatGPT. Like she can tell when she reads something on Facebook that is a post, she can tell if ChatGPT wrote it or not. And if she can tell, that means my ideal client can tell. It means your ideal client can tell, whether you believe it or not. And so most people do not go through and actually build a brand. They built a posting habit, right? And there's a massive difference. And a lot of people will confuse the two because to a degree, it is a volume game. But at the same time, it has to be from a place of authenticity. People think that just showing up consistently, like they're building a brand. Not always. Showing up matters. Like, please don't get that piece wrong. But it's not the same thing as showing up with something that actually has meaning. When you go through and you build a personal brand, it is not your logo or your color palette or your niche or your I help statement in your bio. None of that is your brand. None of that is your offer. That is what you would call top of funnel. Okay. Building a personal brand has meaning behind it. And it is what people associate with you when your name comes up. It is the feeling that they have when they land on your page. A brand is like the standard or the statement that you carry for your own personal life, like a real way of viewing from your unique lens, like a viewpoint, a real time in history, words that you've actually lived, things that you've experienced, things that will resonate with other people. Like that is the weight that a personal brand carries. It is not all the other fluffiness that sits at the top of funnel. And so that is why two people can talk about the exact same subject, and one will pull way harder because one person has actually built meaning behind it and the other person just learned how to kind of post, right? And I'm sure you've seen something similar. I've seen so many influencers that'll go through and they're like, just copy what this influencer did because it's proven to go viral. And then you go through and you try and copy it and it does nothing, right? It gets no views. It doesn't have the same impact as the person that got 1 million plus views. And it's just simply because this person has built a personal brand and people will listen to what they say while you are forcing something from a place of being inauthentic. Okay. And I'm not saying that to where it's like, that's a terrible thing, but that is the trap that a lot of people fall into because it might just be decent, right? When you go through and you type in a prompt, you might say, oh, this isn't bad. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, being decent may help you survive, but it's not going to separate you enough to where you actually can create a strong brand. Right. And people I've seen coaches, like their method works, they'll get client results and they kind of know what they're talking about for delivery, but there's no actual gravity behind what it is that they do. Like nothing about their page or their actual delivery makes people feel like they're stepping into a personal brand. They explain, but they do not imprint. Massive difference between the two. The market does not pay for the most information no longer because information is at everyone's fingertips. It will pay for certainty. It'll pay for trust. It'll pay for conviction. People need to feel it. People need to say, oh, this person actually bled for the thing and they're educated enough to lead me through it as well. That's why the day and age we live in, follower count means absolutely nothing. That's why I feel like views mean absolutely nothing because half of the internet right now is loud, yelling, trying to flex about something that they've done, but they're still actually broke. Attention itself is not authority, in my opinion, right? This is just my personal opinion. I don't feel like just going through and posting things is actual positioning. Creating your profile to look aesthetic is not the brand. I don't think a personal brand is something that is a visual package. Okay. It's not like a visual identity that somebody went and mocked up for you. You went to Fiverr. It's like, hey, here's some money. Like, can you help me create a personal brand? No, that's not the same thing. 9 times out of 10, everything that you do with a personal brand, people are going to ask similar questions every time they talk to you. And I know this because these are the same kind of question tracks that I've ran through with ideal clients before. It's like, what is this person thinking? How can I create something from the viewer's perspective and not my own? What is it that's running through their mind before they land on my page or they land on my page and give me a follow before we have a conversation in the DMs? It's like, do I trust this person? Does this person actually know what I'm dealing with? Has this person ever led or lived through anything to actually lead me? Has this person ever walked in my shoes? Is what they say sound borrowed, right? Do they feel real? Is this AI? Is this a prompt? Is this mini chat? Do they have core values? Do they speak from a place of unique thinking and share personal stories? Like those things are a brand. It is the perception that people carry. But deeper than the perception, it is felt meaning. AI cannot do those things. It is just the residue that is left on somebody after they've encountered your work. Whether this is through content, whether this is through YouTube, whether this is through your storyline, whether this is through a free PDF or a free lead magnet that you've sent them, whatever it is, people need to feel it, not just see it, because attention is now earned. It is everybody always talks about like time being the most valuable asset. I feel now like, yes, time is still the most valuable asset, but right behind that is attention. This is why one simple sentence from the right person can land way harder than 10 advanced breakdowns from somebody that has no actual presence, right? Somebody can go through and post a banger value post that has all the information you need. Zero engagement, zero people respond. Somebody else that posts something very surface level, because they have a personal brand, everybody will cling to it like a magnet. So information itself is not the thing anymore. I don't feel like value content is dead. I've seen a lot of people say that it is. I don't agree with that. I think that value content is still valuable. And yes, you need some value content, but it is getting cheaper by the day. Trust is not. Depth is not. Your personal brand and presence is not, right? A real authentic voice and positioning is not. A point of view that has scars and carries weight from a lived experience, those things do not. The stuff is becoming more valuable, not less valuable. This is where the personal brand is that separating mark, which is also why I keep saying like a personal brand is no longer optional. Like this is the move. Like you need to do this. I've been in this space long enough to understand and lived it because I went through it myself. A personal brand is the separating factor between you being successful for the next 5 years or you getting kind of demolished and sucked under the tidal wave by the new tool that's going to come, whether it's AI or the next thing. If people land on your page and they do not feel any type of authority, then it is just simply a page. If they hear you speak and they don't hear you speak from a place of conviction, then it is just content. It is a thing they're going to scroll past. If they go through, they buy your course, they watch your work, they watch your YouTube, and they do not remember who you are, then the market will move on. Like that is how this game works. The place and day and age we're in, we are now in a trust economy. I literally, truly believe that. It was like 2022, maybe 2023. Google had done a study. And, if you've seen any of my stuff, you've heard me preach this over and over again, because again, like that's what the day and age we lived in then. On the study Google did, they said we were in a trust recession, right? And in order to take a complete stranger and turn them into a buyer, you needed 7 hours of content exposure, 11 touch points, 4 locations. How we, as a company and a business, minimize the learning curve, we created a content flywheel. Instead of having people consume 7 hours of content on Instagram, it was cool. Here's some Instagram. Now let's track them over to YouTube because it's easier to consume long form content and then track them back to Instagram. Now track them to an Instagram DM. Like that was the content flywheel that we created to minimize the trust recession barrier of the 7-11-4 rule. Now we were in the trust economy. And so going through the trust economy, people are still building like they are in a pure information economy. We're not there anymore. That is not where we are any longer. Like you think if you just go through and you teach enough information or you say enough stuff or enough smart things and you post all of this value, people will eventually reward you by giving you a follow or giving you your money or giving you their money or doing whatever it is you ask for a call to action. They might, maybe a little, but not the way that you actually want them to, because people are no longer buying just strictly information. They are buying certainty. They are buying trust. Like they are buying the feeling that this person understands what it is that I'm actually dealing with and they've actually lived it and walked through it themselves. That is a completely different thing than just information. When trust is high, everything else gets easier. DMs get warmer, sales calls feel easier, objections are weak, your content lands harder, referrals happen on the back end with less force, people stay around longer in your ecosystem because they love the brand. Like that is what trust does. And trust is not built from a perfectly optimized post, right? It is built from a repeated congruency. And I feel like if you go on scroll on Instagram, you see everybody now leaning more toward yapping reels. Well, yeah, because people crave human connection. The day and age of like highly edited, curated jump clips and all of this other things and like flashy edits, like those days are gone. People just want like real human interaction. This is where just holding your phone up, saying whatever's on your mind, speaking from a place of lived experience comes into play. That will perform way better. That will get you way more clients. This will build you way more trust than you going through and scripting out a bunch of stuff on AI, trying to come up with a perfect script, and then sending that to a video editor and having them curate that to where it's just high fancy edits. People don't want that anymore. People want repeated honesty, repeated standards, repeated depth, repeated contact with the exact same person that lives behind the message. This is where Instagram stories come into play because then people get a sneak peek behind the scenes of what you actually do when you're not on the front facing camera. Like this is where the connection comes in with the relationship, right? The parasocial relationship that I've always spoke about before. With a parasocial relationship, like the same people love stories because the parasocial relationship determines it's like the same neurons in the brain that fire when you're speaking to a friend standing in front of you, or the same neurons that fire when they see you on a screen. Because when you show behind the scenes of your life, what you do throughout your day to day, people feel like they actually know you on a deeper level. This is why people love movie stars so much. Like they're like, oh, I know this person, right? Because they've seen them so much through their social media content, through their stories, and then they see them on the screen and they're like, holy shit, like I feel like I know this person. That is what you need to do with your people. But at the same time, this is why a borrowed tone is so dangerous. Because yes, you can go through and copy somebody else's voice, copy somebody else's style, do all of those things. But eventually, people will catch on when they come into your ecosystem or you have an actual conversation. They'll eventually feel like there is no person underneath the presentation, right? Or it is a completely different person that they saw on their content. And this is why I've seen people waste years of time, go through and copy things that they think sounds effective, but they just echo what works for someone else. Right? They really confuse when it doesn't work for themselves, because it's like, well, this person did it and they were successful doing it. Why doesn't it work the same for me? Like I've gone through and I've seen people rip my freaking landing pages word for word, my VSL word for word, but it's not going to work the same for them. I don't care. I'm not gonna file a cease and desist because they rip my stuff. It's like, good luck. I know it's not going to work for you the way it works for me because it's not the person behind it. It's just the message, not the person delivering it on their end. The message and the person delivering it is what creates congruency. And I see this time and time again. People are like, oh, the market's saturated, blah, 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 all this stuff. No, the market is not tired of coaches. It is tired of the similarities. It is tired of, people going through and kind of saying the same thing in marketing, trying to rinse and repeat what they hear. Like people are tired of that. People keep saying kind of like I said, like the market is saturated. I see this on every one-on-one call that I come into, every client that first comes into the program. I do not buy what most people say because the market is not saturated for people who are very specific, very clear, very trusted, and impossible to confuse with someone else. It's saturated with people who all sound like the diluted versions of each other. It's the same cadence, the same frameworks, the same kind of polished educational points across the board. the same kind of fake edges, like all around, the same content that feels very technically corrected and emotionally hollow. That's what people are tired of. And if someone goes through and the page feels dead, like even though they're doing all the right things, no one's going to move forward. No one's going to engage. That's why one person can go through, again, hold their phone up, say a yapping reel, no edits, pauses, breaks, even like this YouTube video, right? Just a simple thing, and it will hit way harder than a beautifully structured carousel post or a beautifully structured edit. Nobody wants that anymore. Texture is getting very rare in the space. Everybody wants the framework, everybody wants the thing, but very few people want that deep work that is actually required, right? Everybody wants authority, but few people want to actually become the person behind the words that naturally hold the weight of it. That is why the gap is getting wider. When people look at content itself is not the specific asset, okay? It is just the vehicle. The asset is what the content carries. That is the mistake that I see with a lot of people. They'll go through and they think that content itself is the asset and the key to help them get more followers, get more clients, whatever it is that their goal is. People get obsessed with just strictly output. And output is important to a degree. Don't confuse that. But they're obsessed with the output component while the message underneath really has no center and they're unclear of who they're speaking to. So there's no spine. There's no lived signature in it because they're trying to copy and rinse and repeat what other people do. That's why I always go back to identity, right? Because identity shapes everything else that is downstream. It is identity, then the belief starts to come, then the behavior, and then the business, right? It's all in a sequential order. But if the identity component is weak, then the message gets weak. If identity is borrowed from someone else, then the brand feels borrowed from someone else and the content feels borrowed from someone else because it is all a downstream effect. Just like if you're unclear about what it is you're trying to do or what the goal is, the market will feel freaking confused, even if the content looks okay. Because people will go through and they will try and transfer information without actually transmitting self. And without getting too, woo-woo about it, the people that I see go through and they become super successful, like from this day forward, they will feel way more human. It is going to be less funnels. It's going to be less automation. It's going to be more individualized support. I made another YouTube video that I went through talking about the coaching space changing, and people crave proximity. That's what people want. They don't want more things. They don't want more deliverables. They don't want more courses or modules or all of this. They just want proximity. They want people to step in, whether this is an info offer, a fitness offer, a real estate coaching offer. It doesn't matter what the offer is. People just want to say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. What do I need to do to help me get to the next place? That's it. That's what people want. They want a clear 1, 2, 3 step process. Implement, come back, review, analyze, make an adjustment. Here's your next 3 steps. You know how I know people want that? Because that's what I freaking want. Even though I'm a mentor and a coach and all these other things, like I still have a mentor and a coach and all these other things because I would be a hypocrite if I didn't invest in myself and I'm trying to get other people to invest with me. I still want to learn. So if I want that, I know other people want that. And I have yet to find a mentor, a program, or anything that offers close proximity. Everything is, hey, pay me $15,000. Here's your access to 50 modules. Here's access to the group call once or twice a week. Here's access to this thing. And you get in this container. And then all that happens is you listen to a mentor ramble for an hour and a half, 2 hours with nothing specific about your business. And then you may jump on a one-on-one for 30 minutes once a month. And you may watch 1 or 2, maybe 3 modules. And then something happens in life and you never go back because it's like, this is all the same redundant information I've already heard from the last 3 mentorships I've been in. That's what people want, is just human connection. And the strange part is like the more artificial that things become, the more valuable the real texture behind it becomes. Okay. Not the fake vulnerability, not like the performative authenticity that people post, not like this staged version of being raw, but like, I mean, actual real texture, real perspective, real lived moments. That's what people want. This is what people actually trust. So when it comes to the whole AI thing, and kind of, wrapping all this up. So yes, like you can use AI. I'm not saying don't use AI. I'm not anti AI by any means, but there's a right place and right time to use it. You can leverage AI to save you time. You can have it do admin work. You can have it organize things. You can have it build you spreadsheets or whatever. But do not let it bleach the life out of your specific message. Do not use it for content to strip out the very thing people are looking at you for. Okay. Don't let it go through and like round off all the edges and make everything super sharp and polished and just create emptiness in the message itself. Because a lot of people are about to do exactly that. And then they're going to wonder why every single freaking post feels fine. It's like decent, but it doesn't really move the needle. And so, what should somebody actually do? First and foremost, like, you have to stop hiding behind education. A lot of people use education content like it's their armor. And yes, again, like it is useful, but at the same time, like there's no live pain in it. And like, I don't feel like value content is dead because it is still valuable to a degree because people aren't going to leverage AI the way most marketers, business owners, things like that leverage AI, but people crave real human connection. Value only lets people teach without truly revealing themselves and showing their scars. And so it feels very safe, but it doesn't build trust. Okay. So, yes, you can go through and teach, but also reveal like yourself, struggles, things you've lived, reveal what actually shaped you, reveal your core values, things that you believe in, reveal your standard underneath your strategies, reveal a part of your story that gave you the message. Like all of that is what's going to uh, create connection style content. And you got to stop being so afraid to say what you think because the market doesn't need some careful, watered down, diluted creator that's like not trying to offend or step on anybody's toes. Like that person becomes very invisible because it sounds like everything else. Say the thing that everybody else is too afraid to say, and then back it up with proof, right? And like stand on it and own it. Like that's where authority starts. And second, like stop talking to an audience. I typically see this with new creators, new business owners, new online coaches. You're talking to one specific person and one specific person only. The person that you understand because you used to be them. 9 times out of 10, it's the old version of you that were 3 to 5 years ago. That's the person you're talking to. The one that was stuck, the one that was tired, the one who knew that they had more in them, but could not quite grab traction in whatever it is that you do specifically. Okay. People don't need another generic tip. They need to hear someone that speaks their language and has walked in their shoes. And so when you speak to that specific person, your content changes, your inbound DMs change. Everything else becomes easier because you start sounding way more personal. And personal will cut way deeper than just generic language, right? And the third, you have to build a reputation, not just visibility. I don't want you to think I'm talking views. I'm talking like actual reputation. Stop asking whether every piece of content is optimized. Ask if it sounds like you. When you listen to it, does this sound like me? Is this something that I would actually say? Ask if it deepens trust. Ask if it leaves anything behind when people are done hearing it. That will create a strong brand. That leaves residue behind, right? It doesn't just get consumed, it conditions perception, which is the entire goal of content. It will go through and it'll shape how the market sees the person behind the message. That is the actual asset. It is not just the content itself, not the vanity metrics of views and followers. That means nothing. That is why proof beats virality if the goal is to build an actual business or to create a personal brand. It has always been value over views. And so, again, kind of bottom line, AI is not going to hurt people with depth. It's going to expose people without it, right? It's not going to replace the human connection. It's going to make the human connection extremely valuable. It's not going to make personal brands become irrelevant. It's going to make it harder for the people to ignore. So no, like I don't think that this is a moment to panic because of AI. If you run a coaching business or if you run a business of any kind, I think it's time to get very, very honest and deliver that in your content. It's like, does the market actually know who I am as a person? Does my message carry my true story? Have I built trust or have I just built output? If everybody in the market had access to the exact same tools, why would what would make me still worth listening to? Right? Like that, those are the questions. And if the answer feels super thin or vague, then that's where you start your work, right? No more prompts, no more automation, no more just content, just to post content, like more depth. You need more truth, more courage to actually be seen clearly in your authentic story. Because in the age of AI, your personal brand is not some extra piece of your business. It is the part that keeps your business from becoming interchangeable or replaceable. And if somebody hears that and thinks, oh, this is just about content, then obviously you still don't get it, right? Like this is more about positioning in the message itself. This is about whether your business has an actual center, because as the market gets noisier, and it will, weak brands and just creators that post content, they will disappear. And I've seen it happen over time and time again over the past 10 years in this space. The ones that will stay are usually the ones that build something with that is much deeper than just attention, right? They build trust, they build proof, they built a name behind themselves that actually means something. This is the entire game. And so, like I said, use AI, you can leverage it, make things get done quicker, but do not let it flatten the one thing that the market actually needs from you, which is your voice, your scars, your standards, the way that you live, your unique way of thinking. You have to protect all of those things and then go through and refine it so it actually sounds more like you. Because the people who are not just going to survive this shift, like this is the thing that is going to separate inside of it.